What's up, everybody? Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode. I wanted to just throw this in the beginning. Please subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. That really helps our numbers. Also, check out the merch store at brennantcomedy.com/merch store to get your Ex-Drinking Buddy merch. And if you really want to, subscribe on Patreon, patreon.com/BrennanTassif. That really helps me out. I'm so happy to have everybody who listens. And thank you so much. Enjoy the episode.
Grab me your beer and grab me a coke. We about to sit for an hour, bullshit and tell jokes. And please don't mix it up, cause he done sobered up. Brennan T Comedy on your social media feeds. And Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy. Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy. Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy. Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into another edition of Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy. I'm your host, Brennan Tassif. If you're new to the program, quick rundown of the show. I used to be everyone's favorite drinking buddy. It was my favorite thing to do. Hang out with friends, get drunk, do drugs, get in all sorts of trouble, and reminisce about old stories. I am sober now, but that is still one of my favorite things to do, hang out with a guest and reminisce about the good old days. Most weeks I will be joined by a guest. This week is no exception. All the way from the BK, Gastor Almonte.
I appreciate that you still channel drinking buddy energy.
Oh, yeah.
That's dope. I was like, he just got drunk right now. Like I just saw it happen. That was amazing.
When I did this with Dan the very first time, because we were just getting to know each other, it was a few months after I moved here. And he goes, you really are an ex-drinking buddy. Like, you don't drink, but whenever anybody's around you, you're like, let's fucking go. Yeah, man. I'm hyped.
Talk. Yo, he got me a coffee before the show, but he was like, you got to chug that shit.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Do it. Little zip in your step. Plug everything up front. For everyone listening, you are a comedian based here in New York City. Let everybody know where they can find you, all the stuff on social media, YouTube, anything like that.
Oh, dope. Yeah, you can find me on all social media using my name at Gastor Almonte, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, whatever it is. I'm on there. And I have a dope weekly podcast called The War Report. It's hosted by myself and the homie Chalet with Sharp. We literally shoot the shit every week. And we cover topics, and also you get to hear about our lives and our nonsense. So yeah, it's like this. Just we still drink essentially. Yeah.
That is also the funny thing about the show is everyone's always like, oh well, like I'm not sober. I'm like, I don't give a shit. Like, come on, because the whole premise of the show is what I was just saying. It's I had crazy shit happen, so I had to get sober.
Yeah,
but it's also like. What I realized is every time I talk to somebody and I'm always like, oh yeah, this one time I got so drunk I put my head through a guy's car window because he was flirting with my sister. And then without fail, people always go, well, that's psychotic. But this one time I got so drunk and I was like, oh, that's the show. Like that's the show because everybody's got. And you were nice enough. You sent me a list of yours. So we're going to get into that. But before we do that, you are a comedian up here in New York. We were talking about it before and we've talked about it at the stand quite a few times. Based out of Brooklyn.
Yeah.
And we've talked about it.
And not just based, by the way, to be clear, I'm from Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
I want to clarify. A lot of people base BK. I'm from BK.
Yeah.
But yeah.
You're back from when it was Biggie's Brooklyn.
Yeah, very much so.
But how did you get into growing up in that kind of environment, being from up here? How did you get into comedy? Like, how did you get into stand-up as an art form? Just because you do that full time.
Yeah, man.
That's what you do. And you've been on This Is Not Happening, and you've been on television and everything. And how did that happen coming from a guy who grew up in BK?
Yeah, I mean, growing up, I was always one of like the back of the bus funny dudes with my crew. But I didn't know comedy. I didn't view that as like a job you could do unless you were like. Eddie Murphy, Chris Rock.
Yeah,
what I mean? I didn't know that like you could make $100,000 as a comedian. Like it could be just a pretty good job.
Yeah.
So it never occurred to me to go after that. I actually had like a sales manager job. I used to I started out selling potato chips on a route truck for Frito-Lay.
Okay.
Got promoted to manager.
And how old were you when this was happening?
I was, 24?
Yeah.
24, 25, and I did that until like my late 20s.
So up until 24, 25, you were just kind of the funny guy in your group of friends. Like you were always making people laugh, and then you just went and got like a job, and you were just doing the thing.
I got into sales like most charming people do, essentially, that slacked off in school.
Everybody I ever meet that's in sales, when they hang out with me or most comics, they always go, you should do sales.
Crush that shit, because that's all it is. It's bonding with people, making them feel good, and then like offering a legit solution. That's really it.
Making people comfortable.
Yeah, because they need to be comfortable enough to tell you the real. Like, this is the part of my business is trash, and be confident that you're giving them a real answer, not just like, you know, trying to hustle them.
Yeah, because we have to do the same thing on stage. Everybody knows, like we have to, within the first 30 seconds, we have to convince the entire group of strangers, like, hey, we're going to have a good time. Like, trust me. Like, I know what I'm doing.
Amen. Exactly. So, yeah, I did that. When I got promoted, I realized that, like, the way that I sold was super informal, like, because I was on like a route selling to like bodega owners. You know, that was I was crushing that. Like, I grew up in Brooklyn and New York, so
you know how to
that I was good. But like with the promotion, I knew I'd be like selling to like district managers,
dealing
from
with
like
corporate people.
Yeah. So I read an article in Inc. magazine about a bunch of CEOs that took a comedy class to get better at presenting.
Oh, get the fuck out of here.
Straight up. Like,
that's how you got into it.
Yeah, like I read that the week I got promoted. So I looked up a comedy class. I convinced my cousin, who was a teacher, to take the class from me, and we took a class 7 weeks.
And how old were you when this happened?
This was 28, 29 in that ballpark. Yeah, and we took the class 7 weeks later, did a set, and it went really well. And during the class show, like this black dude came up to me. He's like, "Yo, that shit was fire. How long you been doing comedy for?" And I'm like, 7 weeks.
Yeah,
you know. So he like gives me this head nod. That's dope. And I'm thinking it's one of my cousin's people's. You know, because everyone else in the class was white. So like the class show, I'm thinking, all right, if you like if you a black dude, I'm assuming it's either me or his people.
Yeah.
So like I asked him about it. He's like, "Nah, I don't know who that was." And the dude comes up to me after the show when we kicking it out front, and he's like, "Yo, you should do this for a living. I'm a comic, and I'm actually in the main room upstairs." This is at Gotham.
Oh, he just came down to check it out.
Yeah, he just came out to shoot the shit at the downstairs room at Gotham, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm a comic. I've been doing this for 10 years." He's like, "Admittedly, you won't make the same money for a while, but if you do this, I think it could be something you do." So I didn't know who he was. I go home, I Google him, and it was like Roy Wood Jr. You know? So like. That's how little like I knew of comedy. Like,
holy shit!
Yeah, and this is like, this is right when he's like popping off. You know, like
I love Roy, man. I just posted the other, like it was a couple weeks ago. I used to see Roy all the time when he'd come into Jacksonville. Man, Roy's one of my favorites.
He's a dope dude, super genuine. And he just gave me his math. He's like, "Yo, anytime you want, reach out to me if you got questions." And legit, still didn't do comedy for like a whole year after that.
Okay.
Got in like a big funk at work. Really wasn't happy with the work-life balance. And
was it the fact that you were now dealing with like more corporate people, or was it like more hours because the promotion?
More hours. Yeah. Also, the location was further away from home. The initial gig was like 10 minutes from my house. This was like an hour away.
Yeah.
So like all of that and the travel too, it just didn't vibe with me. Also the market. I got moved from working in Brooklyn and Queens primarily to like White Plains. So I didn't even connect with that demo. Yeah. I got into like a real argument with my wife. Like we was like going at it because I was like, "Yeah, I don't want to do this shit no more." And she's like, "So when was the last time you were happy?" And I was like, "A year ago at that fucking show."
Really?
Straight up, just like instinctively, I was like, a year ago at that fucking show.
You could pinpoint it. That's when you.
I was like, that's the last time I had a good time, and I like felt relaxed.
Yeah. Because
it was right before the promotion. I took the class specifically for that.
Yeah.
So she's like, "Why don't you do that more often?" I was like, I don't know how it works. She's like, and we sat there, looked it up. She's like, people
it's such
do open
a
mics.
crazy thing.
Straight up.
Where it's like, because I have no idea how this works. Like that's what, like there's one man show I'm working on. It's like the same thing. It's like a bunch of comics were like, "You should try it with your style. That would work." And I'm like, I have no fucking idea how to do this.
Yeah.
And then you just look it up and you meet people and you work it out. And then all of a sudden, boom, you're like,
you're doing the thing.
I'm doing it.
That's it.
Like I had to do a budget the other day and I was like, "Oh, this is happening now."
Yeah.
Like we're in it. So you did the same thing. You sat down with your wife, you looked up open mics and you just started in.
And that was it. And literally we did it for like a week. And I was like, I feel better. And she's like, quit your job.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Ride or die, man.
Yo, and
Shout
she's like,
out.
quit your job. We'll figure the work thing out later. Just do this for now. It'll make you sane again. You'll be yourself. And for a whole year, I just did nothing but open mics. Thankfully, I own my building. I got tenants. So, like, we had to, like, buckle up, but bills got paid.
Yeah.
And then
So when you decided to take the year to just do comedy,
yeah.
and you kind of went all in on it, were you like, what's going, because you, like you said, you own the building, so you do have a source of income. Were you panicked? Were you worried? Or were you just like, no, this is like, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it?
I wasn't thinking about like career or any of that.
Long-term?
I was just
Okay.
thinking about I need to feel normal.
Oh, and I wanted to ask, so with the work thing, was that affect, obviously you said you were in a fight with your wife, so obviously it was affecting things at home. But was it, because I run into this in the service industry, because the managers in the service industry get run ragged.
Right.
So it's like, this is your life, is
Right.
what you're doing.
Yeah.
So was that, in your situation, getting promoted to the management and sales, was that just, like, you didn't have time for like anything else? That was just your life now?
Literally, because it's
miserable.
You know what I mean? Like, sales is dope if you have no other options and you need to make a lot of money.
Because
I
it's
think
good
it's
money
great.
quick.
Yeah.
It's the same thing in the service industry. You
Exactly.
get make good money quick.
And on top of that, like, I will say that, like, I think it's important for everyone to do it for a short term. You learn a valuable skill. I think every job requires sales.
Yeah.
So I do think it's important to do it for a bit.
Well, we see it all the time now. We run into open micers and they're like, how are you meeting all these people? It's like, because I talk to them. Like,
Yeah.
it's not that hard.
It is, though.
But these are, especially if you come up where a lot of your life is not, and I don't want to be old man, get off my lawn, but like a lot of your life is based in social media and the internet. Then you go to school, you get out of school, you get a job in the field that you went to school for. You've never had to sell yourself. You've never had to interact with other people. And I grew up in a house where my dad did like old school sales, like in the 80s, like whining and dining. And so he like taught us like reality is perception. Like, this is how we do it. And so I've always been really good with people.
That shit matters. Like, literally, while raising my kids, anytime they wanted to buy something, I made them convince me of it.
Yeah, and that's such a unique and incredibly important skill.
Yeah.
So you decide, and so you already have a leg up on a lot of people when you start doing the open mics because you already know how to talk to people.
Right.
So after that first year, was it, because I know I've talked about this before with everyone listening, but my first year in New York, it was such peaks and valleys. Like I would go, I joke about it, but like I would go from recording a podcast with like a comic who's like in New York comedy, and he's showing me texts from like famous people. Like, can you believe this guy? Look what he's texting me. And I'm I'm 1 degree of separation away from these famous people. And then I go to work that night and I'm getting yelled at about a steak temperature. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
Hell yeah.
Like,
that's New York, baby.
Yeah. So for you, when you're doing the open mics, did you, because you had the building and your wife was on board and everything was kind of copacetic, were you very like steady, or was it still like peaks and valleys like a lot of people go through?
I mean, I think that I avoided the emotional aspect of having a slow week or a busy week or an exciting thing, because I wasn't viewing it as like, this is my dream.
Okay.
I was viewing it as like, I'm getting back to base of like my head. I need to be normal. I need to be a happy dude in general. I want to be a good father at home. And I felt like my job ruined that. Like I wasn't being myself. And I feel that it was bleeding into the other aspects of my life. So my goal wasn't like, oh, I'm about to blow up as a comic. It was, I'm learning how to express myself. And it just happens to be that I'm doing it in front of people, but I'm learning how to understand how I feel and how to communicate that. And it just so happens that I do it on stage first, but now I could take that home to my wife. I could take that with myself and like better process how I'm feeling when I'm angry and channel it and accept it and then address it. So I didn't feel the same peaks and valleys that I hear a lot of other people feel because of that. And then the other component you mentioned, my bills were paid.
Yeah. So there's
like, like young comics, like I feel for you, dude. Like you paying $1,400 rent and you paying $10 a day to perform at 2 open mics. You working a minimum wage job. Like,
I say it all the time, and I know you and I have talked about this, but I am so grateful at how everything worked out because I've been in the service industry for so long. Like I was able to get a job at this nice place
Yeah.
to where I can work 3 days a week and I don't have to worry about anything.
That shit is clutch.
And it's at night. So I can do the podcast. I can do all sorts of stuff during the day. I can hit like the 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock mics if I want to, and then go into work. Some of these comics I meet and they're like, oh, I can only do mics on Wednesday because I have to work 6 days a week in order to pay rent. It's like it's a very like a gift of the magi. It's like you saved all this money to move to New York to pursue comedy, but now you're living in New York where it's so expensive, you can't do comedy.
Yeah.
It's like that. And I feel for those comics. And it's one of those things too, where it's like, yeah, when there's a lot less stress, like for me, because I'm so emotionally invested, obviously everything's it hits harder. But for you, and I've heard this from so many comics that they were like, well, when I just either stopped giving a shit or just wanted to do what I wanted to do, or I started doing comedy for myself, that's when everything started happening.
Yeah.
When you try to force it, the audience can feel that and they don't want any part of it.
Right.
So for you, because you were just kind of like going after it almost as like a therapy kind of, not your comedy in a sense, but as a sense of like getting back to normal, did you find that things started happening and you were just kind of like, what is going on?
Yeah, I mean, I think people were like interested pretty early on. I think that I realized I was getting asked to do shows that, in my opinion, I wasn't always ready for.
Yeah.
The This Is Not Happening thing happened. The first time I was on it, I was only 3 years into comedy.
How did that happen?
Was
that when your boy Roy was hosting?
I did that show as well, but the first season was Ari's last.
Yeah.
And that was just like a nice chain of events. I was starting to do storytelling shows. So I realized that I had a natural knack for that as well.
So you found your voice pretty quickly too, because now, well, I've seen you on stage before, and you're very much like you tell stories and stuff.
Yeah, and I think
shortened, but it's very much that style.
And I think that comes from the fact that like my reason for being on stage was different, right? Like I was trying to like learn how to express myself and understand what I was thinking.
I didn't even think about that. So you don't have these people in your head like you got to do this, you set up punch.
I didn't give a shit about it.
Like, I don't fucking care.
Yeah, like if I bombed,
I'm up here for me. I don't give
like
a
this
shit.
is something I need. So like that stuff came in like afterward when I was like, okay, now I'm figuring out what I want to say. I could do that. And also just being frank, like I was older than other comics. You know, I was like 29. I've lived. Like
More
I
life
got a wife, I got
experience,
kids, like I have stuff to talk about. So like I might not have been funny right away, but I was interesting right away.
If I have to hear one more fucking thing about the dating apps, I'm gonna lose my mind.
Yeah. like all that shit just bores me. Like,
and there's some established comics too, who are like, yeah, I live at home. Like, yeah, that's weird. Like my mom made me dinner the other night, and I was like, what the? Like, I'm obviously that's just like something I'm making up, but like there are people who do premises like that, and I'm like, what? Like I've been on my own since I was 17. Like I've been arrested 8 times. Like I've gone to hospitals and rehabs. It's like, you're talking about your mom making you dino nuggets? Like what the fuck are we doing here?
Yeah, I don't know. And just like for adulthood's sake,
because it's a room full of millennials who still live at home.
Hey man, that's cool. Like rock on if that's you and
But I'm always in the back. Like what is happening?
Yeah, it ain't for me, B. I don't know. You do that. Rock on. You do your cookie jokes, but I don't want no parts of that.
So you get you get on stage and you find your voice quickly because that's your whole purpose is to figure out what you want to say. Yeah. And then you do a couple of storytelling shows, and then how does This Is Not Happening happen?
Yeah, like essentially I started doing these like long form stories that were funny. So I'd like do them at like some stand-up shows after working them in these story shows. And my boy Jeff Zimmerman used to have a show at the old UCB East. Okay. And it was like a mixture of stand-up and story. So he had me do a long-form story there. And the stand-up that he booked that day was Janelle James. And she heard my story, and she's like, yo, Ari is doing this show, and he's looking for
just
stories.
Like that.
Yeah, so she just happened to hear it. She's like, I think what you did is a good fit. And, she said, reach out to them. And that was it. It was literally that. She sent me a screenshot of his Facebook page, because they were friends. Obviously, I didn't know Ari, and Ari had just posted that, hey, I'm shooting season 3, and like he made like a joke. He's like, admittedly, too many white guys. Like I need more black people of color and women. And so I reached out, sent the email blind, and I got a email response within like an hour.
Get out of here.
Yeah, from like from one of his like the show producers.
Yeah.
And like it was, and like you gotta understand, like I'm coming from corporate America. I'm emailing,
and you're 3 years in.
yeah, I'm
like,
3
let's
years
not forget
in. Like
that.
all of this is weird to me, right? I'm 3 years in. I'm emailing a Comedy Central official email, and
Oh yeah, because this is back. Yeah,
right,
because
he
it
was-
started
this
with
is on
Comedy Central. Yeah.
So like I'm emailing a company a submission. So I sent like a super formal, hey, my name's blah blah blah. This is what I do, and like
This is what we learned in the promotion.
yeah, that's what I learned in my jobs. That's how that's how you handle. And the response I got was like, "Yo, this is so fucking dope." Who the fuck are you? Where you been? Like it was super like casual, and like all of that was like awesome to me. That
Yeah.
like they were just more concerned with being genuine and like that they enjoyed it. And they told me right away like, hey, listen, we love the story. Admittedly, like we're gonna try to squeeze you in because I understood I was unrepped. I was
Unknown.
I was unknown. I was a late submission because this was already towards the end of the like booking that he was trying to find
Yeah.
some diversity stories. So they like we kind of talked back and forth. They asked me to do a few more versions of it. I would work it every couple of days, send in a new like version of it. It's hard as hell to find a 15-minute set in
Yeah.
New York to tell a story.
Yeah.
Where
Were you just reaching out to friends? Or?
Yeah, literally. I just hit up friends like, yo, this is weird, but I need a spot for 15 minutes and I'm going to tell one long story, probably derail your show. Like, I don't know what to tell you.
But it's important.
but
It's for a big thing.
It's for a big thing that I can't tell you about. Like, none of it made sense,
Yeah.
God,
I love this business.
But, yeah, I thankfully comedians kind of understand. We got, like, a far better community than people give us credit
yeah,
for.
me and Maddie Weiner talk about that. We've talked about it on her episode, but it's an independent thing because you're on stage by yourself and you're vulnerable and it's just you. But the community that surrounds you is very tight. It's very loving.
Side tangent. Yo, I met her at QED
Yeah.
like 2 weeks after she moved up here, right?
Yeah.
Love what she did on stage. Crushed. I was like, I don't know who the fuck you are. You're awesome. And then she tells me she's like 22. Blows my mind. She's like I'm like, how long you been doing this for? Like she's a kid.
Yeah.
Right? Crushing this shit. I get an email to do like a Comedy Central taping. I'm like stress writing it. I show up. She's taping her first set the same day.
Yep.
So like I got to watch like this person that like I met. I enjoyed. I fell in love with her art form. And then I got to watch her as a really young, talented comic have her first like moment to shine. I got teary-eyed backstage.
It's one of my favorite things about this show is I will have comics on because I love comedy. So I have other artists on and stuff too, but it's mostly comics because I hang out with comics. And I say it all the time. It's like watching a child grow.
Dope.
Like you'll have someone on the show and they're talking about how they started and some of the trouble they got into when they were younger and stuff. And then you're like, I really like what this person does. And then, a couple weeks later they get past some clubs and you're like, man, it's almost like a hipstery thing to say, but it's like, man, I knew this. I knew this was going to happen.
Yeah.
That's why I had them on the show. And then boom, happened with Maddie. My very good friend Katrina Davis out in LA, happening with her right now. Like it happens so often where Dan, obviously Lamort, it's been happening with.
Yeah.
It's like one of those
Much
things
deserved.
where it's like, yeah, you get them on, Steven Rogers, Caitlin Palouffa, Ian Laura, like it's so cool to have these people on who are so good at comedy. And I can see that. Like I watch them and I go, I really like what's happening here. And then I get them on. And then people kind of get a behind the scenes. And then when something happens, everyone's like, who's this? And I'm like, actually, you want to listen to this episode? I'll tell you exactly who this person is. So Maddie, we had the same thing. And
Dope.
it's so exciting to see.
As soon as she got off stage, I was like, yeah, I know this is weird because I only know you a month, but can I hug you? Like, that was freaking awesome.
I did the
I'm
same
so happy for you.
I saw her like because we moved to New York in the same month, obviously different things. And I went to the Stand one night. And this is when she wasn't even getting, like, she had just moved here for after Just for Laughs.
Yeah.
So they were putting her up for like guest spots, but she wasn't like passed yet, or she wasn't like because it was literally like right when she got here. And I saw her and I ran out of the room when she got off and I was like, hey, you're not on the lineup. Like, what is your social media? Like, what is all your, like, that was awesome. Like, I need to follow you on everything.
Hell yeah.
And the same thing. And then we became friends and she's done the show and now we're like good friends now, but it's so awesome to see because it's one of those things like, and just like you for This Is Not Happening, like You're unrepped, you're unknown, but you're like, I know what I'm like. I got it. Like, trust me. And then you get on there, and it's got what it's got millions of views.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So I think the first one's at like 3.5, and the second season one is at like 4 million views.
That's crazy.
It is trippy. Like I got off the stage, and like I walk into like the backstage green room area in the parking lot, and I was like in a daze. Like the producer comes up to me. That's when I finally felt nervous. Like I felt like I can't do anything much.
This was the first time where you're like, oh, it doesn't mean any. Like, I'm just doing it for me. This is the first time where you're like, ah, shit.
Yeah, and
wow.
Like it just because it tripped me out. Like, oh, this could be a thing, you know. So yeah, and I incredibly thankful to all the people involved over there. I always give props to Ari, to Sam, to Eric. They all like worked on that show. That's brilliant. Shame it's not there no more. You know, hopefully I get in a position one day to bring in a storytelling show again. But yeah, I'm a big fan of that format.
Yeah,
and,
me too.
I think it's done a lot for myself and other comics. You know, Ali Sadiq, I think, blows up to the level he's at now because of a show like that. So yeah, man, super blessed that I got that opportunity early on.
That's awesome. I wanted to ask you, before we get into the stories, because we're going to go back in time to when you were younger and get into some of these stories. But before we do that, I wanted to ask you about the PBS thing, because this is something you and I have talked about a lot. This is after This Is Not Happening, right?
Yeah. This is around my album release.
Okay, so you're coming out with the... Oh, yeah. Did you plug the album?
Oh, yeah. No, I have an album out. It's called Immigrant Made. You can hear it on most streaming services. And if you want to see the independently released like shot special that I did, it's on Amazon Prime.
You got it on Amazon Prime?
Yeah, I was one of the first people to do that. That's how I got real talk. Like,
how did you?
So I did like this is the advantage to being an adult with like marketing and sales in your background. So
not only that, but like a little bit of disposable income. People ask me all the time, they're like, how do you do that pie? I go, you just throw money at it.
Dude, straight out. Like I planned the whole thing out. So like the first This Is Not Happening clip comes out. And Comedy Central Films, their shit comes out 6 months, a year later.
You said it was supposed to be 2 years, but then they got you in the year.
Right. So the first one comes out a year later, and I get a ton of pop in the visibility. People follow me, but like I got nowhere to send them. I got no podcast. I got no album. So like I realized like I wasted that moment.
Yeah.
So I get booked on the next season, and they doubled the season's length. So like they recorded double the episodes. They announced that the show's getting canceled, so we get an email telling half of us that, hey, listen, they're going to split the season back to the previous size, and because of that, half of you are going to come out a year after.
Okay.
So instead of
doing one long season, it's going to be 2 regular seasons.
And instead of waiting a year for all the episodes, half of you are going to wait almost 2 years.
That's
to
the one
release.
that you told me about, yeah.
Right. So everyone else in the email is like, oh, that sucks. I'm hyped because now I know I got 2 years to plan for this moment that I wasted the first time. So I start sending emails out to like record labels like, yo, I got a This Is Not Happening clip in the bag coming out in 2 years to the week, I could tell you. Last one I put out got 1 million views. If this is going to come out, get that same attention. I want to record an album, release it for that week. I get a ton of responses. I pick a label that I worked well with. We did that. Then I sent that email to like a bunch of people like PBS, and I started booking a bunch of stuff.
Okay. Well, that's what I was going to ask. Because you have the This Is Not Happening, that's kind of the card in your back pocket. So the labels reach back out to you, and they're like, "Oh my god!" Like, and so do you take meetings with all these people and stuff? And like, because that's the thing with comedy is that until you have something, I mean, it's the thing with art. Until you have something that can benefit them, they're kind of like, fuck off.
Yeah, I mean, you have to be real. There are, I don't even know about LA. I don't live out there like that. There has to be legitimately 15,000 people in New York that can give you a hot 15.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not, and it sounds crazy.
No,
I don't
the
think
market
I'm exaggerating
is so
that
oversaturated.
Yeah.
You have to give them a reason.
Yeah. So, like, what separates you, right? Like, if they record your album and put it out, what's going to be different about you that they're not doing all the legwork to get
this
the
goes
streams?
all the way back to what we talked about before. This is why having the podcast is so vital.
Yeah.
Because I can show them my numbers. I can show them where it works, where it doesn't work.
There's a demand for you.
Yeah, and also it's something tangible.
Yeah.
Like if you just have social media and you're just putting out clips, admittedly a lot of people put them out before they're ready, and that's what you're doing. Yeah, you'll get a ton of followers, and that's obviously a good thing. But it's like, but you don't have anything that you can like like offer
Right.
other than the like, at least with the podcast, it's tangible. So I can be like, hey, I've got this show. It gets this many views, which already puts us separate from thousands of other comics who just decided not to do it.
Yeah.
Because we already have something different. So you send out you get all the responses from the labels. You decide to have the album, and then the PBS thing happens. So you said they reach out to you?
Yeah, they reached out to me. There was a couple of different producers on that squad that were scouting for stories in New York. They saw me crush it at a couple of shows, and they hit me up with the themes that they were going to be recording for. And I said I'm into it. Admittedly, like I asked, like, when's the release of this? And I purposely picked the theme that was going to land for around the album time, and then I made sure that I had a story that fit that theme. And yeah,
so smart. And that's the thing is, like you said, with your background and like sales and stuff, like, and that's just something growing up that you and I understand. It's like, well, I totally get when companies are like, well, what can you do for me?
yeah.
And it makes total logical sense.
I'm not even mad at it. I genuinely get confused by comics that are like, it should be about who's funniest. I'm like,
everyone's funny.
Yeah, like
I say that all the time on this show.
There's so many funny people.
Everyone's funny.
B, like that's not the separator anymore. Like, and like, real talk. Like, if you are a network, right? You're a TV network. Every episode costs low end $2 million to produce, paying talent, writers, promoting it, all of that. So you have to understand that, like, networks, they don't know who's funnier.
Yeah.
They genuinely don't. That's why you see pilots getting
thousands
put
of
out.
pilots get made a year.
Like they literally pay people to write them. Then they pay a group of those to film them. Then they pay a group of those for a season. And even from all of that, you end up with like one show that makes it through and makes it.
I know a few
3 to 4
friends in
season
LA
runs.
who no one's ever heard of. They've done like 7, 8, 10 pilots.
Yeah. It just,
like done them, like recorded the whole deal.
And talented people who just like it didn't land right, or the other group of people wasn't the right combination to lead to this being a good product. So they don't know how to make it. They just know that.
That's why they wear suits.
But fair. And like being real, they know how to do other stuff.
Yeah.
Like giving them credit.
Yeah.
It's just that's the one thing they haven't figured out.
Nobody can. That's right. And that's the thing. I tell people all the time, and I'm sure you would completely agree with this, where it's like, if you think your stuff is that good, then do it your fucking self.
Yeah, put it out.
Yeah. Like what people do with their albums, people do it on YouTube with their specials. I'm doing it now with the one-man show. It's like, I really want to tell this story, and I think it's important. So you know what I did? I shut the fuck up.
And
I put
put it out.
money where my mouth is, and now I have a one-man show coming out.
And that's what I'm getting at. Like, I feel like not enough artists, comics in particular, but artists in general, don't realize that, like, when the network looks at you, it's not just about you being talented. They're saying, if I give you $30 million, will you give me 10 episodes on time?
Yeah.
Like, it's an arrangement. Like, the funny part, they're hoping you're right on that, you know, and they'll get it right enough times that it's worth this gamble. But the responsibility part, the execution part, that's what we can do to separate. So don't complain about that.
Just
They're
do
literally telling you the goal.
So how did the Amazon Prime thing happen?
So Amazon Prime had just like started allowing people to upload specials, and nobody had done it. Like, look it up. I was when my album came out, there were so few specials on Amazon that people thought Amazon bought my special.
Yeah, that's what I would
Like,
assume.
Yeah, I got press like, yo, Gastor special, Amazon Prime exclusive, you know, and that wasn't the case.
Exclusive.
It's just but I thought it over. Like, I was like, if I put my special on YouTube, which at the time, ironically, it's flipped.
Yeah, because YouTube's the thing.
Now,
now.
YouTube's the thing. At the time, it meant like, oh, this is a lesser product. I knew that people watching it on Amazon, it would give the illusion of this is a professional thing. And I looked it up, and it's the same process. It's just admittedly far more tedious. Someone literally reviews it and approves the upload, whereas YouTube just lets everything fly.
And then if it gets flagged, then they'll come back and
they'll take it off. Yeah. So, like, I made sure I met all the metrics. I submitted early to give them time. I still had a hiccup. Like, it took like an extra week from when I announced. So, like, the audio was out first, but I was adamant that I knew my stuff was perfectly done. And I put it up, and I got a ton of press from people because it was a rarity to have a special on Amazon that wasn't attached to Amazon.
Yeah.
It was just someone uploading it.
That's awesome.
You know, so again, like I looked at ways that like, how can I get attention for this project is different. And the other thing was like, admittedly, I felt that the special, I wanted people to watch it the way I watched the special in the living room.
Yeah.
And I knew that Amazon Prime would people would be more inclined to use a Fire Stick.
It's
watch it
so
on the
weird
TV.
that like YouTube, you can watch it on the TV. Like sometimes I'll put on my podcast and I'll joke with my girlfriend, be like, "Look, I'm on the TV."
Yeah.
And you can do that with YouTube,
You
especially
can.
now with smart TVs. But back then,
You innately
YouTube
watched
was,
it
like,
on your
on the
phone or
phone,
computer.
yeah.
Yeah. So like, it wasn't that I was against that. It's just I wanted to create in the idea of this is a different product.
Yeah.
This isn't a YouTube clip. And in turn, I think it got me press. I think less people watched it, but more people talked about it because of it. So I got a shit ton of press, and then a ton of clubs reached out and said, "Hey, you're passed." And
no audition or anything. Like,
no
I
audition
don't
or
want to say
any of that,
no
thankfully.
anything because you did a lot to get there.
Right. I
Yeah.
did real work. It's just
Yeah.
I didn't do the work that most people take. I didn't do
Which
that
is
path.
so refreshing because with styles like yours and styles like mine, it's like I'm not gonna like you're gonna give me 5 minutes at an audition. Like that's not what we're doing. Like I mean I can do it, but that's not like kind of like what we're like I'm going for.
Right.
And like I know you're the same way where it's like I can crush 5 minutes, yeah, but like I'd rather do like longer sets. And if you're not going to give me that opportunity, then it's I think people lose something in that.
Yeah.
Which is like the whole 5 minute thing in New York where it's like 5 minutes, bang, bang, bang. It's like, yeah, but my stuff is better if it like can breathe a little bit. But they're like, no, it's not how New York does it. But for you, it was like not easy. But for you, it was one of those things where once you had all that stuff out, they were just like, actually, yeah, come on in. You're good.
And it's not just the me thing. There's other comics that have like,
Oh yeah,
done the work, and then they know that, oh, this person's good, and I don't blame the clubs for that either. Like they have to have a way of knowing that a comic is able to handle a variety of things.
The audition is just a tryout to see if you can handle it. If you have past experience where you show you can handle it already, then there's no need for it.
You're good, exactly.
It's just like when, just like sports. It's exactly the same thing where it's like, yeah, you have to try out, but if we followed your career all through college, then we're just going to draft you. Like you don't need to try out. Like it's fine.
Amen. So yeah, like I realized that like as long as I had a product out that was proof that I was good,
Proof of concept,
like I won. So yeah, I put my focus on that. It thankfully paid off, and I'm in a good place now.
Beautiful.
You know what I mean? My kids eat steak every day.
Yeah.
We chilling. You know what I mean? We good money.
I wanted to talk to you about growing up in Brooklyn. Because you sent me a few stories that I want to get into now. When was the first time that you started like drinking and hanging out and like doing that? Was that
So I drank the first time when I was 13, and then I didn't drink again until the day my daughter was born.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I got
What happened at 13?
I got very drunk unintentionally at one of my junior high like end of the year parties.
Dances? Oh, parties, yeah.
Like somebody was throwing a house, like all of my friends decided to throw a house party every other week for like May and June because we were graduating.
From junior high.
From junior high. So like at one of these parties, it was at my homegirl's Crystal's crib. Somebody spiked the punch. I didn't know.
You had no idea, and you like punch.
Like genuine. I just like juice.
I like juice.
You know what I mean? I drank mad juice, and I know like I was acting a fool that day, and I don't remember much of the day. And then the next day, everyone called me saying, "Yo, G, you was wilding. Yo, you was crazy," and like they were excited for me. And I don't remember the fun of it. And I like having fun.
Yeah.
So I was like, why? Like, all the fun shit.
Could you really not piece together what happened?
I saw, like, flashes of it when people told me, yo, you did this. And I was like, oh, yeah, I do remember
That's terrifying.
that. Yeah, like, I drank a lot that day.
Because thinking of it from the perspective of when we're older and we drink, it's like, oh, we could black out. But we know what we're drinking. We're drinking this drink. That's got to be so scary to not know. And I mean, I know we hear about it obviously a lot on the news with like Rufalin and stuff like that, where like just to be drinking a drink and I've actually had a guest on before who got roofied one time.
Yeah.
And it was almost by accident because they were at a bar, him and his girlfriend's mom, and the bartender tried to spike the girlfriend's mom's drink and he drank it instead. And he like was like totally fucked. like literally physically, like couldn't move, like and all this stuff. And he was explaining it to me, and it obviously with you explaining it now at 13, it's a little less like volatile. It's a little less like dark, but it's still like to be 13 and think I'm just drinking juice, like I like juice, and then like waking up the next day out of a blackout, like hungover. That's terrifying.
Like I genuinely do not remember ever being told it was spiked during the party. Like at all.
So
and
you
I
had no recollection of what happened.
So like then people would tell me stuff and like I kind of remember
that hazy,
doing stuff like, oh yeah, I did do that. Like me and my friend raced down the block while carrying one of the girls from our class.
You won?
I don't remember. I know who I carried. I carried Defina, and like we ran half a block carrying a young lady each to see who could like run faster with this added weight.
Yeah.
I don't know why that was a good idea.
You're 13.
But it worked, But like I and then we had more parties and like admittedly like I didn't want
you just steered away from it.
Yeah, like it didn't feel like cool to me that like we had a great time and I didn't remember it.
Yeah.
I didn't have the other stuff. I wasn't nauseous the next day. I didn't have a hangover.
Okay, that was my next question.
Yeah, like so like all of that was cool with me. I was like, I'm like, this sucks that like everyone else is telling me how dope this night was and I don't remember it. I want to remember it. That's the whole point of these parties.
Yeah,
like that we're not going to see each other anymore and I'm missing the whole thing, So like I stopped. And to reinforce it at the next party at my homegirl Joanne's house, someone spilled alcohol on me and the parents came home and I got in trouble.
What?
And I didn't drink. So I was angry. I'm like, yo, this shit sucks. Like now I'm getting like looked at funny. So like the next 4 parties when people were making the list, they would have to tell me, hey, I don't know if you could come because Joanne's mom talked to my mom. And I'm like, I wasn't even drinking, bro. Like, and they were like, yeah, I know. But like people saw how you were acting the first party, then the second party, you smelled like the drink. And like it started.
So now you got a problem.
Story. Yeah. And I'm like, that's not me. I didn't choose to drink the first party. I purposely didn't drink the second party. So much so that like 3 years ago, I apologized to her mom on Facebook. I was like, hey, listen, like I'm 38 years old. I'm 35 years old. I'm reaching out to you now because I feel like as a parent and adult, I should have credibility. I did not drink that day. And she was like, okay, like I believe you now. I'm sorry.
What?
Like straight up, like recently, like I had that moment because it was like, it bothered me that like, yo, that was out there. That wasn't the thing. But I literally stopped drinking completely because of that. I would go to parties and like I'd have a good time.
How old were you when your daughter was born?
25, and that's why.
So
like
12 years you went.
Yeah, and I had a drink at the actual hospital. Like we went downstairs. My boys bought me some drinks and cigars.
Yeah, and
we did it in front of the hospital in Brooklyn on 7th Ave.
Hell yeah,
And ever since then, like I felt like okay, like I enjoyed the drink and it wasn't like an out of control thing. And since then, I've drank and I still drink. It's just I don't drink often.
Yeah.
I probably have like realistically, like I probably drink like 10, 12 times a year.
Yeah. And because I've been around you a lot, like at the stand and stuff, and you're very responsible, which I mean, sounds crazy. You're like, yeah, I'm 38 years old, of course, and I've got kids and I own a building. But the listeners, you guys would be shocked how irresponsible a lot of people are in art. Whether it's actors, musicians, comics. And we were talking about this before. I was telling you about the timing and the recording and stuff. And you go, yeah, like I own a building. I have kids. Like timing is important.
Yeah, I got shit to do. People depend on me to get it done.
Exactly. And I'm like, you'd be shocked how many comics are like, yeah, I'll get there when I get there. And I'm like, hey man, I paid for an hour, right? Like we get the hour. And they're like, yeah, don't worry about it. We'll figure it out. And I'm like, that's not how this works.
At all. Yeah, nah. Buildings on 42nd Street don't deal with that energy.
Yeah.
They are very scheduled, including the checks they get from you.
Yeah.
Nah, B, I'm big on like being on point with your stuff. Yeah, like I feel like there's a time and place for that energy, but it's not with appointments, it's not with business.
Yeah, because you can still definitely let loose and have a good time.
Yeah, chill out.
There's a difference. Yeah,
but that's not the place. Like, case in point, like when we got club spots, I'm big on being early, relaxed, I'm there to be available for the club to do business. They're doing me the service of giving me a place to work on my craft where I get paid. We get paid to practice at comedy clubs in New York. That's insane if you think about it. Like, yo, come here, work on your craft. I'm gonna pay you. Work on it so much that you aren't available to us because you'll be leaving to get more money on the road.
So
like
much,
the whole concept of that is crazy.
It's backwards,
come here, practice so that you can't be available to come make us money.
And it's also good too because, again, going back to that, how you are responsible. It's one of those things where it's like, we've talked about that, where you're like, I try new stuff during the week, but on the weekends when people hire babysitters and stuff, I bring the heat. Like, it's time to go.
Yeah.
And the club appreciates that because they're like, okay, you can work on your stuff whenever you want. They'll never tell you not to. But you in your head understand, like, this is when we have to go. Like, this is when it's time to go.
Yeah, there's an economy involved here. Like, I always think about, like, yo, if you had a comedy club Monday through Thursday, I know there's variables, but realistically, you're more prone to be a big comedy fan. Like, you came right after work. You came on an off day because the show's a little weird. It's interesting.
Well, and a lot of touring comics are in the city Monday through Thursday.
Exactly.
So a lot of times you're fans of specific people who are on the show.
Yeah.
Which is why you come out. You're a fan of comedy.
You're a fan of comedy. So, like, I feel more comfortable gambling because you're someone that understands there's a process. You've probably heard about what we do. You're okay with, like, me gambling. That's part of what you're probably interested in.
Yeah.
Whereas Friday, Saturday, Sunday, like, I have genuinely close friends that know I do this for a living, and I know for a fact they will die at 80 and see maybe 3 comedy shows their whole life. Like, and one of them was like my album recording. Like, they don't like, they will never like know you specifically as comics unless you're literally Kevin Hart.
Yep.
So to them, it's, I went to that comedy club, and that comedy club is the brand that represents all of comedy for them. So, like, when you hear about people saying, oh, I don't go to comedy clubs, it's because the one time they went, they had a shitty experience. Somebody chewed them out that shouldn't have because they were terrible at crowd work.
Comic gets on stage wasted.
Someone's unprofessional, does it wrong. And you just ruin, like, that person, and now probably that couple and their friends. Like, you just lost
their kids,
people from
the whole
our world
thing,
because of you. You know what I mean? So, like, yo, you messing up our money.
Because I say that all the time too. It's like, you get one opportunity.
Yeah.
Like, that's it.
You messing up the whole situation for us.
You call somebody out and then you go too hard because you don't understand the tension that's in the room, or you're like, fuck it, this is my house. Like, I'll do what I want. And then they cry. Then other people see you make that person cry, and it's like, oh, we don't want to go see this ever again.
Yeah. You ruined that person for our art, and, like, they're gonna spread that word, and, like, everyone around them, that whole ecosystem, they're gone from comedy because, like, they can't even bring it up. Like, if it's your sister, your mom, and you're like, yo, let's have a fun night out, yo, let's go to comedy, she'll shut that down. You lost the whole squad of people because of your, like, silly, frivolous idea of, I could be free and say what I want on the weekend. Do that Monday through Thursday, your shit. Do it at your show. But, like, the comedy club, somebody pay $30, 2-drink minimum, be a professional,
and a babysitter, and a ride share.
That's a $300 night. Like, you fucking it up, yo. Like, don't do that. It annoys me when I see that energy, like, over somebody. I get so tight too when, like, someone, like, automatically chews out an audience member that,
I
like,
get
says
so
something.
I'm like, come on now.
That person's excited. Like, channel that energy. Yes, it's not right that they talk, but overall, all that person is saying is, I'm so happy to be here. I don't know what to do. I want to be a part of it.
Yeah.
What's the right interaction? Train them.
Yeah.
So that they enjoy the moment and they enjoy the show and they might come back.
Yeah.
Crazy idea. You know what I mean? Like, yo.
I wanted to ask you, speaking of training and being responsible, you had a policy that you had to implement in your 20s.
Yeah.
So what happened with it? So you're not drinking at the time when this happened?
I am not.
How old are you when this happened?
What is this? I would say I'm like 26.
Okay.
Yeah. My boys from high school, we would get together often. My boys from Beta. So one of my boys is having a birthday party in the city, and it just so happened to land on one of our other friends from high school who had moved to Florida, was coming up to visit.
Okay.
So he comes up. I tell him, hey, yo, this is perfect. The crew's getting together. You haven't seen them in years. Come through, I'll take you to the party. And he's like, damn, that means I got to go straight to your crib from the airport. I'm like, don't worry about it. Come to my crib, drop your shit off at my house. We'll go to the party, and then I'll drop you off at your fam's house later. He said, cool. So he shows up. We go to the party.
That's always how it starts. Cool.
Yo, it sounded peace. I pick up my girl. I take my boy Jeff with me. You know what I mean? And we show up to the party, and we having a blast. I lose him like 30 minutes in. And like every now and then I would see him like in the corner getting drunk, getting wild. But it was like just controlled enough that I'm like, all right, that's peace. And also everyone else like knows him. So like,
yeah, so no one's getting in trouble.
Yeah, like I'm like, he can't get in that much trouble. Like everyone rocks with him here. Everyone's excited. We haven't seen him in 4 years. So like I would see him, I'm like, all right, like you probably shouldn't be on that table. But like I'm gonna let that go. I know this is it's you excited. You cool. I'm gonna let that vibe. So like we in there like an hour, and my boy Dre comes up to me and he's like, yo, G, and I ain't trying, I'm trying to avoid saying homie's name, you know, so he's like, yo, he hit on our people's girl. And I'm like, yo, but that's his people's too. He hit on my boy Phil's girl. And I'm like, yo, but he knows that Phil's with her. And he's like, yeah, I don't think he understands that right now because he's like
so out of his mind.
He's so out of it. So you should go talk to him. So I'm like, all right, cool. Where's he at? And he's like, he's upstairs. So I go upstairs. I can't find him. I come downstairs. I can't find him. And they're like, yo, the people from the bar, they want to talk to us because apparently he's in the bathroom like yelling. And I'm like, what are you talking?
This is the bar downstairs?
So like the bar's upstairs, the party's downstairs, part of the bar. And like the people from the bar.
So this isn't at a house. This is at like a bar.
At a location in the city. Okay. So like the dudes from the bar, they came downstairs to talk to us because apparently he went upstairs. And the reason I couldn't find him is because he went into the upstairs bathroom. And Dre thought he was there to like relax. But like apparently he started yelling while he was in there. And when they opened the door, he like broke a mirror and like had knocked over the sink. Like hard shit to break.
The table seems like the least of our worries.
Yeah, like I don't care about you standing on the table. So I go upstairs and like my girl who like now's my wife, but like we're like a year into dating. I'm introducing her to my good friend that like, you know, she's like, what the fuck is wrong with your peoples, you know? So like none of this is going well for me, you know what I mean? Like I hyped this dude up, like yo, this is my homie, like I
haven't seen him,
I'm so hyped, you gonna love him, and like she's like, yo, your dude's like hitting on girls that's going out with your people. She's breaking shit in the bathroom, so like she starts talking with the people from the bar to like, yo, I'm sorry about what happened. He's a little drunk, whatever.
There's a lot of drunk,
right? And she's trying to calm him down, and I see her like struggling with that interaction because they're legitimately mad.
Yeah.
And honestly, as much as she's trying to keep the peace, she don't give a fuck about my boy like that. Like, so she's like not that motivated. She's doing me a favor.
Exactly.
But like she's losing and like I'm seeing her lose. So like
she's kind of like, whatever.
Yeah, she's like, he does deserve this shit.
Yeah.
You know, so like I go over to try to fix it and I let him go. He goes back downstairs. While I'm talking with the bar people, he goes back and hits on homeboy's girl again. So my boy Dre drags him upstairs, comes up to me. He's like, Gastor, you got to leave now. Phil saw such and such hitting on his girl. He's going to fuck him up if you don't leave right this moment. So I'm like, all right, cool. So like, where is he? And like Dre had let him go to tell me
like
this.
Dragged him up and let him go.
He dragged him upstairs, but let him go to tell me this privately, not in front of him.
Yeah.
So that he doesn't know that we're about to leave. He goes back in the bathroom, breaks more shit.
Oh, God.
So like, my girl is like, I don't know what to do. Like, I can't fix that. So like, we look at him, we grab him, we leave, and we start walking towards the car. All the bar people noticed that more shit got broke. The entire like bar staff starts walking towards us outside. And like my man looks at them and I'm like, yo, bro, we gotta go. Like we're gonna get into a real fight now. And like I know it's like 4-on-4, but one of them is like my 95-pound girlfriend. You are extremely
you're useless.
Yeah, like this isn't a fair fight right now. Like I ain't about this. And he like gets hyped. He's like, nah, B, I don't care. I take on all these motherfuckers. He's like 5'4", by the way. Like, he's not the guy for this. You know what I mean? I'm not saying he ain't. It's not that he ain't tough. It's just you're gonna lose.
Yeah.
You're gonna lose this fight, bro.
There's physics involved.
Yeah. Like, so he's like, nah, B, I got this, and he starts like stripping as if that helps in the fight.
I never understood that when people like. I mean, I get it, I guess, so people can't grab your shirt and stuff. But like
the thing is, that makes sense the way like people normally dress now.
Yeah,
this is like early 2000s hip hop era. Like, you need that belt.
Yeah,
like your pants is like 4XL. Okay, don't take that off.
Jinko jeans,
yeah,
baby.
like you need that shit. So like he takes off his belt, he whips it. I see his sidekick fly somewhere into the street. He takes off his hat. He takes off 4 shirts. Like he's just like, and he's like, let's do this, and then collapses on the floor, completely like gone. You know, and like the dudes like run up on him, and I'm like, hey, yo, my man, I'm sorry. What's the damage? And they're like, yo, like he broke this, and this, and I'm like, I'll give you $100. Does that like cover it? He's like, nah, that's not enough. And I'm like, that's all I got. But like, sincerely, you can have it. I'm sorry. He says, cool. I give him the $100. They go over there. And I'm starting to get like my phone's jumping. Like I look at the phone, it's Dre. He's like, yo, you have to leave. Phil is outside looking for him. He's gonna jump.
Damn, so he's about to get jumped again.
Exactly. So like now he's I'm like, he's done. He's like, he's dead. My boy Jeff would come with me. He's one of my like friends from my hood. Doesn't know this kid from high school.
Yeah. Right.
But he sees the situation. He works at bars. So he's like used to people being drunk. So he like picks him up and starts dragging him to the car. And it's like, he's like off, man. Like he's just not responding at all. Like he's not moving. We get to my car. I'm parked at the corner and like Jeff is exhausted, drops him on the floor. And like, I look at Jeff and I'm like, yo, like what the fuck am I supposed to do? He's like, you got to take him to his house. I'm like, I don't know where he lives. He lives in Florida now. He doesn't live here anymore. His family is his cousins. I've never been to his cousin's crib. He left his bags in my house, but like, I don't know where to take him. He's like, why don't you call his family? He just threw his fucking phone away. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know how to contact anybody. Like, I don't know what the fuck to do. So he's like, you got to take him to your house. Let him sober up. I'm like, I'm not taking this drunk dude to my house because then my mom and dad are going to think that I chill with drunk people all the time.
It's going to be 13
like,
all over again.
On me. Yeah, like I don't want any of that energy on me. I don't do
all
this
over
shit.
again.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't do this shit, you know? So he's like, yo,
I've been fighting this stigma for 20 years.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't do this, B. Like, I purposely don't drink. Don't put this on me. And he's like, bro, like the bar I work at is in the city. If you leave a drunk dude and this is like on 1st and 3rd. Like this is the city.
Yeah.
So he's like, yo, you leave a drunk dude here, it won't be more than half hour before the cops come and pick him up. Like you have to take him home. So like as a point to prove that he was so drunk that he wasn't awake. Like we were at the corner by one of the like circular things where people like tie their bikes at.
Yeah, bike. Yeah,
and like there was a bike there. I literally put the thread of the tire on his face, turned it, and it did nothing to him. He didn't wake up. He didn't move. So I'm like, I don't know what to do with this kid. And he's like, yo, we have to take him. So I'm like, all right, listen, if you could get him in my car, I'll take him wherever. But I'm not loading that drunk dude in my car on principle. So he's like, fine. My girl sits in front with me. I drive. Jeff drags him through the back seat and sits with him with his head on his lap like he just knows this guy, right? And we're driving back to Brooklyn. I'm heated.
Doesn't know. The best part is the mental image. Doesn't know him at all, but he's like, that's all right.
It's all right. Be like, it is what it is, you know? Right. So like we're driving and like
and now you said you're driving back to Brooklyn?
Right. We're driving back to Brooklyn. And we're in my dad's car and he starts to hurl. Like he just throws up.
Just like comes out of the blackout and starts throwing up.
Throws up all over Jeff, all over the seats, all over the floor in the back. And like,
what do you do as you're driving? Do you like slam on the brakes?
I'm pissed
or are you
off,
like
but I'm on the highway. I'm on a Jackie. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, what the fuck? And like, I'm telling him like, and like, there comes a point where like nothing you say makes sense anymore because it's too far. Like, put your head out the window. Why? Like, you already did a gallon. Like, it is what it is.
Yeah.
So I'm like fuming, and I'm like, I'm not taking this dude to my house. I don't care what you say. And I'm like, Jeff is like, you have to take him to the house. I'm like,
I can't even picture because you're such a sweetheart. It's so interesting. Like I could see the energy you're getting.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, you got like mad.
Yo,
like,
I was
big
heated.
mad.
Like I'm holding back so much right now, and I'm like, yo, my man, like I'm not taking him to my house. I can't have a drunk dude in my house that I don't deserve. I don't chill with drunk people. I don't drink. This dude just yacked in my car. He don't deserve that. And I'm like, and Jeff's like, you have to take him. I'm like, you take him. I'm like, and Jeff Vadler, he's like, I don't know him. I'm like, I just met the dude today. And then he's
You
like,
take him.
yeah. And then he's like, he tells my girl, he's like, Gabby, why don't you take him to your crib? And Gabby's like, I got 5 siblings. My dad's a deacon. I'm not showing up on the one date night I had this month with my boyfriend with a drunk guy that he went to high school with. No, that's not the story I'm giving my dad today. So
That's a great story.
so again, valid like response, you know. So like I'm like, yo, bro, on principle, I promise you, he will not enter my house. And Jeff is like, and I have a huge yard. My parents have a dope yard. He's like, why don't you leave him in the yard? I'm like, no, my parents' yard don't deserve yak on it like my car has right now.
Well, not only that, but God forbid your parents wake up before you do and they call the cops.
Yeah, all of this.
We're all in the same. We're in the same position we were to start,
bro. So like, Jeff is like, what are we gonna do? I was like, that's a good idea though. He should be outside. And Jeff said, I'm like, let's leave that dude outside. And I'm like, we no longer in the city. Nobody will arrest him. Where can we leave him outside that it won't be a problem? He's like, honestly, take him to St. Mike's. Take him to the church and just leave him on the steps.
Take him to the church.
Straight up. And we went to St. Michael's Church, Jerome Street, freaking put him right on the steps with other homeless people. And that dude, like, he stayed sleeping. I got to my house. And, like, I'm angry, like, infuriated after dropping everyone off. And from 6 a.m. till about maybe, like, 11:30, I'm in the backyard trying to clean out yak from this car.
Yeah.
My dad wakes up. He's an early bird. He sees me cleaning. And, like, my dad is high temper energy. Like, the reason I'm not normally angry is because I don't like what I saw when he gets angry. So I try to avoid that. He shows up. I know he's going to get mad.
He's going to lose it.
But I'm so mad that, like, I'm mad for him. Like, he's like, what the hell happened? I'm like, I'm going to tell you what the fuck happened, okay? I'm chilling with my mans. He got drunk. He threw up in the car. Jeff made me take him, Dad. He made me take him. It's some bullshit. Now I got to clean this shit? You believe it? Then I had to tell you about it. It ain't fair, B. Now I'm going to get in trouble with you for something that I didn't do. It's stupid. Yo, don't even talk to me right now. You know what I mean? I'll deal with you later. I'm angry enough about this right now. I got to clean this. And, like, he saw that I was so heated that, like, he just left it alone.
Wow.
Like, he was like, all right, like, clearly, like, it's fucking with him.
I've had people on this show before where they, like, I was like, oh, did you get in trouble? And they always are, it's like the same thing. It's like, well, yeah, eventually, like, something happened, but the person in the moment could tell I was so remorseful or so upset or so angry that they were like, yeah, they're doing it. They already got what I was trying to do.
Like, they're there. Like, they get it. So, like, dude, I'm cleaning yak from another person. Yeah. Like, that's the punishment. I'm good. So, like, I'm cleaning the car. I get it to as close as I can. At, like, 11, he comes over. He's like, all right, you got most of it out. I'll take it to a detailer. And, like, he's like, you're fine. So I go inside, and I lay down after this crazy night, about to pass out. At, like, 11:10, I hear, like, some weird knocking on my door that's, like, lethargic. Yeah. And, like, I open it, and it's my boy. And I'm like, what you doing here, man? And he's like, yo, I got a crazy headache. And I'm like, yeah, you drank a lot. He's like, nah, be like the bells from the church. Like, they rang for like 15 minutes. That's how I woke up. I'm like, yo, my bad. But you deserve that, my G. And he looks at me and he's like, can I crash here? I was like, no, like, you can't. No. Like, be like, you lost all of that. I don't rock with you right now. I need space for a day or two. And he's like, all right. And he has to, like, open up his luggage and, like, look through it to find a written note with the address of where to go. And he looks at his luggage, packs it up, and he leaves, then comes back 10 minutes later, knocks on my door. He's like, yo, I don't mean to bother you, but, like, I know you mad, but I need $2.25 because I threw my wallet away and I don't got MetroCard money. So I had to give this dude money for the MetroCard. And he left, and that's my dude. Like, like, we chilled every day in high school, and we cool now. But there was like a 5-year gap where, like, we ain't talk. Yeah. Because I was like, yo. And then
you made the rule, no one's allowed to get in your car.
And then I made the rule from there on in. Yo, if you in my car and you disrespect my car, no, I will kick you out. Yeah. And I had to stick to it. People ain't believe me. Including the first person that got kicked out is the dude that warned me that he was acting up at the party, my boy Dre. I left him once on a Jackie Robinson.
For real?
Straight up. I pulled over. He was acting reckless in the back of my car. He was being distracting. I pulled over between exits. I was like, yo, my man, get out. And he's like, yo, you being crazy. I'm like, yo, I'm not pulling off. I put the hazards on. I was like, you getting out of my car, walk the fuck home. I don't care. Straight up. And I did it twice. I did it once to him. I did it once to my boy. And like, when you do that 2 times and people talk
know.
about it, people's
yeah.
like, oh, he's for real. So like no one like messes with my car now because of it. But yeah, I was like, I just on principle, I can't have people acting up in my car.
Fuck, man.
So,
well, I
yeah.
appreciate you coming on, man. That was a great story.
Thank you, man. Thanks for having me.
That
I'm
was
glad
a
I got
fun
to
time.
vent a little bit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Plug everything to everybody listening one more time. Your social media, this album, the podcast, the whole thing.
Yeah, man. You catch me on all social medias at Gastor Almonte. My album Immigrant Made streams on most of the like streaming things, and it's also on Amazon Prime. And please check out my podcast, The War Report, hosted by myself and the homie Shalay Sharp. Episodes every week on Thursday.
Perfect, bro. Thank you again for coming on. Thank you again, everybody, for listening at Brendan T. Comedy on all social media, BrendanTComedy.com. We've got the one-man show coming out in January, and subscribe on Patreon. Get your merch. We'll talk to y'all next week.
Peace.
Dude, that was fun, man.
Yeah, that was a blast, man. Thanks for having me, bro.
Thanks for coming on.